Imagine living a life where pain, death, and poverty hold no fear for you, a life where your only concern is to live virtuously and fulfill your potential. This is the essence of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, a prominent Stoic philosopher, is renowned for his work Meditations. The concept of being a great person might be abstract, but Marcus is arguably one of the most deserving of this title in history. This isn't a self-help video, but the philosophy Marcus introduced can address many contemporary issues, and I aim to show you how to understand his teachings. Let's explore the historical context. Marcus Aurelius ruled as Roman Emperor from 161 AD to 180 AD. He was the last of the 5 so-called good emperors, presiding over the era known as the Pax Romana, a time of relative peace and stability within the Roman Empire. The Pax Romana concluded with his death. During his reign, Marcus faced numerous challenges that tested his Stoic resolve, including the Marcomannic Wars, a series of conflicts against Germanic tribes, and the Antonine Plague, a devastating pandemic that significantly impacted the empire. As emperor, Marcus was the most powerful man in the world, with the Romans having little concept of territories beyond their empire, making him the ruler of the known world. Despite his power, he chose a path of virtue. The life of a Roman emperor was synonymous with hedonism, indulging in money, sex, wine, and other pleasures. Such indulgences were almost expected. Thus, any vice imaginable was within Aurelius's reach. He was unrestrained by money, law, custom, or ethics. Nothing could prevent him from fulfilling his wildest desires. Yet, despite these boundless circumstances, Marcus chose a life of virtue. He chose to be consistently good throughout his 19-year reign. Being good doesn't automatically make you great, but imagine facing limitless temptations and choosing virtue, not for acclaim or recognition, but purely for the sake of being good. That is truly remarkable. Consider if you were in his position for nearly 20 years. Could you resist temptation daily, knowing there would be no consequences for any action you took? What would you do? How would you behave? I know I couldn't live up to the example set by Marcus. Let's delve into his personal reflections captured in his journal Meditations, which reveals how he applied Stoic principles in his life. Meditations, a book by Marcus Aurelius, was initially his personal journal. It documents his navigation through life, divided into 12 parts and covering about 150 pages. The title Meditations was assigned by publishers, but Marcus never intended for these writings to be read by others. They were his deepest confessions and beliefs. Even though it was written spontaneously, Meditations is one of the most powerful and moving books ever created. The best way to appreciate Meditations is to read it yourself. Copies are available in nearly every library and bookstore worldwide. However, for this video, there are a few ideas worth examining. Marcus Aurelius believed in living according to nature. By nature, he referred to plants and animals but also the natural order of the universe. Trees grow because that is their purpose. They grow as large and beautiful as they can, not for praise or validation, but because that is their nature. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly, and a frail chick becomes an eagle, not out of desire, but because they are meant to. Similarly, Marcus believed that humans must fulfill their potential. He did not believe in accumulating riches or accolades. Nature made you human, and it is your duty to be the kindest, most virtuous human possible. For Marcus, this was the pinnacle of human achievement, and unfulfilled potential was the darkest place one could descend to. A key Stoic principle is that while you cannot control external events, you can control your reactions to them. No matter what happens, a great person weathers the storm and lives up to their fullest potential. This is your duty as a human. As emperor, Marcus dealt with numerous challenges, including evil and adversity. Above all, he believed that evil, wicked, or bad people were a part of our universe. Asking for a world without them is like asking for a vine without thorns. Bad people exist, and you will encounter them. Marcus believed in kindness and thought that people never intentionally did wrong, it was out of ignorance. While you can try to teach them, it is not always possible. You cannot control if the universe sends you immoral, wicked, or lazy people, and often, you cannot help them. Marcus advised looking inward. He reminded himself that he had faults too and was in no position to judge others. On a different day, perhaps he would be the ignorant one. Sometimes, You simply do not understand the full picture. The thief who steals to feed his family might not be wrong. You just don't understand, so don't judge. He believed we were all born for each other, much like trees grow fruit for animals. Just as a tree grows fruit for animals to eat and animals die to feed worms, we are made to help each other. This is our duty, and failing to do so is the only true failure in life. We all face adversity, and Marcus was no exception. Just as encountering bad people is part of life, so is facing adversity. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you react. Marcus advised not to pray for bad things not to happen, as that's futile. Instead, be ready to meet adversity when it comes. Don't feel sorry for yourself or mope. Feel fortunate that you have the tools and spirit to endure. Bear events bravely and persist. When you do, you'll realize that what seemed bad was an opportunity to rise above and move forward. When adversity comes, don't complain, act and endure. If an unendurable event comes, don't disgrace yourself. All men die, but not all die complaining. Despite his wealth, Marcus Aurelius didn't see material possessions as inherently bad. He was cautious with his relationship to his belongings. He could have had anything: money, houses, art, wine, but he chose not to dream of physical things. These are meaningless and don't fulfill your potential. Reflect on and value what you have, but don't become so attached that you would be despondent if they disappeared. These things don't make you more virtuous or kind. Your potential is higher than that. He spent considerable time contemplating death, viewing it as a natural part of life. His views were simple: it's inevitable. Don't fear death or mortality. Nature has assigned us to be good and reach our potential, but also to die. Death is a duty. While you're here, live fully, be kind, be good, and then die, as death is part of our role in nature. Marcus, along with others, was a forebear of Stoicism. The Stoics believed in many things, covering logic, ethics, and more. Central to their philosophy is the distinction between pleasure and happiness. Money, fame, and success provide fleeting pleasure, but true happiness is deeper, a state of being from within. It doesn't come from worldly things. To achieve happiness, live a life of virtue and continually better yourself. The only true failure is not achieving your potential. Being great is your duty and nature. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches that true wisdom and virtue come from living in alignment with nature and focusing on what we can control, our thoughts and actions. At its core, Stoicism teaches that the only things within our control are our thoughts and actions, and that we should strive to live a life of virtue in accordance with reason. The main tenets include wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Their only fear is neglecting their moral duties. Pain, death, poverty, or life's various challenges do not intimidate them. Their true fear lies in disappointing themselves and failing to be fully human. He once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." One notable example of Marcus's Stoicism was during the betrayal by his general Avidius Cassius in 175 AD. Cassius declared himself emperor and led a rebellion against Marcus Aurelius. This act of treason was a profound betrayal, as Cassius had been a trusted general and close ally. Naturally, Marcus felt hurt and angry. The initial reaction might have been to seek revenge, to crush Cassius and make an example out of him. However, Marcus decided to take a different approach, staying true to his Stoic principles. Instead of reacting impulsively and with vengeance, he maintained his composure and integrity. He continued to govern diligently, focusing on the well-being of the empire rather than being consumed by thoughts of revenge. He instructed his forces to advance toward the rebels with the intention of quelling the rebellion, but not with unnecessary cruelty. When Cassius was assassinated by his own soldiers before Marcus could reach him, the emperor's reaction was telling. Marcus did not celebrate the death of his rival. Instead, he showed clemency and forgiveness to those who had supported Cassius. He even mourned the loss of his former friend, reflecting his belief that revenge was not the answer. Marcus Aurelius chose to rise above the betrayal, demonstrating mercy and understanding rather than perpetuating a cycle of violence and retribution. Marcus Aurelius's lesson that the best revenge is to be unlike those who perform the injury is exemplified through his response to betrayal. By responding with dignity and clemency, He preserved his integrity and demonstrated his strength of character, setting an example for both his contemporaries and future generations. He showed that true power lies not in revenge but in maintaining one's virtues even in the face of betrayal. His famous quote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," reflects his belief in the profound influence of one's mindset. Despite the turbulence of his reign, marked by wars, a devastating plague, and political unrest, Marcus maintained a positive and virtuous mindset, understanding that his thoughts shaped his soul and actions. During the Marcomannic Wars, he spent long periods away from Rome, leading his troops in harsh conditions. The burden of leadership and the distance from his family could have overwhelmed him with negativity, but instead of succumbing to despair, he nurtured resilience and virtue. He engaged in daily self-reflection and journaling, which later became his renowned work, Meditations, reminding himself of virtues like courage, patience, and wisdom. His leadership, marked by calmness, composure, and fairness, inspired those around him, demonstrating how our thoughts shape our well-being and actions. Another of his powerful quotes, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one," was evident in his actions during the Antonine Plague. While others debated solutions, he acted decisively, organizing public health measures, funding medical aid, and ensuring fair distribution of resources. His actions reflected Stoic principles, duty, resilience, and the common good, showing that true leadership is defined not by words but by commitment to people's well-being. His response to the crisis earned him admiration, demonstrating that true morality is about embodying virtues through decisive and compassionate action. Another guiding principle in his life was gratitude, reflected in his quote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Despite the hardships of war and governance, Marcus began each day with gratitude, appreciating simple joys like warmth, companionship, and the opportunity to lead. His practice of morning reflection inspired his soldiers to do the same, fostering strength and unity even in adversity. By focusing on gratitude, he maintained his resilience and inspired those around him, proving that even in the hardest times, there is always something to be thankful for. In conclusion, Marcus Aurelius's life and teachings offer timeless wisdom that can guide us through our own challenges. By striving to live virtuously, focusing on what we can control, and responding to adversity with resilience, we can lead a more fulfilling life. His example reminds us that true greatness comes from within, from living a life aligned with our highest values.